Hello and welcome to another episode of Battle Ready. And
Ready.
Drake's hiding. He's taking cover behind the Kharadron Overlord. So today we thought we'd talk about the Kharadron.
Yep.
We recently got a new battletome.
They did.
We've had a chance to play it.
Yep.
I think we've each played one.
Mm.
And we thought we'd give our thoughts on it, both for people who are returning to the KO.
Yeah, good
and
job.
then also for people who might want to pick it up as their first army. So returning, Drake, what's different?
You can choose your footnotes. Amendments and articles.
So first, their whole setup is very, very different. So before, you could choose footnote, article, and amendment.
Yeah.
But if you went to a sub-faction, you were locked in.
Yes.
So no one ever did.
Wasn't that fun?
Yeah. Now you get your own choice. You can still get a sub-faction ability, and then you get your choice of article, footnote, amendment. So
There's
that
only
works
3
out
of
great.
each, though.
In the past, all of your heroes and particular units and boats got ether gold, and you could spin that for particular things.
That's burnt.
Gone. That whole thing is out. And frankly, I think that's a good change.
Yeah, because it was just giving you a triumph, which wasn't even that good to begin with.
Yeah, so they changed the way the triumphs worked into 3.0, and so they weren't as good. And also, it was really weird having this ether gold, having this faction ability tied to triumphs.
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
No, it wasn't good. We forgot to use them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was messy because you had to put the little markers down to show who had ether gold and who didn't. And then it took your bravery away when you used them. It was just a messier mechanic, and that's gone. So all that bookkeeping is out. Worrying about reduced bravery, out. Everything else is out. As for the characters, I think that all the heroes and most of the units are actually pretty good. They all seem to have roles they want to fulfill, and the heroes in particular all seem really good.
Tricky Flint.
Except for maybe Brock Grongnason. I don't know, the named guy from Baraknar. He might be super good, but we don't have that model, and so I skip right on by every single time.
Amazing character, amazing model.
Yeah, the model for him is cool with his little mustache guns. So the units all seem to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. The boats seem to have a purpose. So that's really good. The other major change is they play totally differently now.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
So the frigate's supposed to be like ramming into combat and dropping boys down. But when I tried to do that...
So first, in the old method, every ship could disengage, meaning they could retreat and shoot, and fly high, meaning they can go anywhere on the board 9 inches out. And every ship could do it.
Every ship.
And so you just, every round, you picked everybody up, you repositioned, and you shot. And then you picked everybody up, and you repositioned, and you shot. And going into combat, charging in, was, pitiful. For the most part, like a desperation play.
Yeah.
You did it at the very end when you were desperate, when you needed to, it was...
Or when they're like weaklings, and you can take them out.
Yeah, or when you were
like a crippled
super overmatched, right? Yeah, you crippled them so bad with your shooting that now you can go in and finish them off with your weak sauce boarding weapons. Sticks. Yeah. So definitely that was much less. Now they have tied both disengage and fly high to command abilities. So those can be issued to any boat, and the boats can issue it to themselves. And I think actually only an admiral can issue it to boats. But the boats can issue it to themselves.
I don't know.
But because they're command abilities, that means you only get one per phase, right?
Unless you take the certain for another.
No, but I mean you only get one disengage per phase.
Yeah.
You only get one fly high per phase.
So you can't reposition as insanely.
No, you can't. You can reposition a boat, and there are definitely times when that's good, and you want to do that. And also boats, except for one footnote, which you can take. Boats can't get 2 commands, right, in the same phase. So you can't disengage and fly high, right? And that does take away some of their mobility.
Yes.
But also, at least when I played it, and tell me what you thought when you played it, it felt way more like I was playing Warhammer.
Yes.
Like in the old version, I would just move my stuff around, roll some dice for shooting, next turn. Move my stuff around, roll some dice for shooting, next turn. Now all of my boats have to maneuver. All of my, I have to set things up. And so it definitely feels much more like I'm playing the movement game rather than just basically ignoring the movement game and repositioning each turn to wherever I want.
Mm-hmm. The frigate and ironclad also lost their built-in engine.
Yeah, so the war scrolls are different. So Drake's right; they did lose their for the big boats their built-in engine rigger that heals them each turn.
Dumb.
You don't like that?
Dumb.
I think what they got in return is actually pretty good. First, both of them count for 5 models now instead of 2.
But that makes sense.
And the frigate is meant to be sort of an assault boat.
So you should. That makes sense. Why would I have a mechanic to fix it after it's done assaulting?
Once it charges in, you can roll on a table and do mortal wounds on the charge, which is great.
Didn't work for me because I charged something that has a basically ignores mortal wounds.
Drake charged into a contorted epitome that had a 2-up board on mortals, so it didn't work out as great for him. But that is sort of cool. So you do have a boat that wants to get into combat. Now, it does mortals on the charge, and once it charges, it can poop out some guys.
Yep.
But it's it's hand-to-hand fighting is still pretty poor.
Yeah.
Its boarding weapons are still pretty poor. So
it doesn't even have any different fighting tactics.
Yeah, and when you poop guys out,
they're also good. Probably
they're also going to get smashed. Unless I think the only ones that are really good in melee are the Sky Wardens and the Engine Riggers.
Even then,
they're not great. They're not true hammers in melee. But
Smack.
But they could be. But they'd be all right. They'd be better than Arco Company. So even then, it's so the Kharadron still don't want to be major. They're not a major combat army. They're still a shooting army.
Yeah,
that's where their strength is. That's where they're going to do the most work, right? Getting guys in and out. Hopping off to claim an objective, hopping back in the boat to move somewhere else. Those tricks are still going to be there, but it's definitely more about moving your ships around than it is about
bonking things.
Just moving and shooting, moving and shooting, moving and shooting. Yeah, melee is still going to be probably not your first option. It might not be a Hail Mary, though. There might be times when you want to get in and do a bunch of mortals, and then maybe you think you can kill them from there, right?
Yeah.
But it's probably not your go-to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're not building your strategy around melee.
Unless you had like 13 different frigates and a whole bunch of Sky Wardens in them.
Yeah. So I think that as somebody who, if you are familiar with the old tome, I think that this tome is basically a straight upgrade. List building is better. Quality of life stuff is better. You don't have to track ether gold.
Drecky Flint.
Drecky Flint is in it.
Why wouldn't you buy it?
Right. You got rid of all the triumph stuff. It's real, and the game, it now feels much closer to other armies, even though it's still a shooting army.
Yep.
Army.
Armor.
Well, it has armor.
It does.
But even though it's still a shooting army, and even though you're not going to be in combat as much as Khorne, right? But or Iron Jaws.
I wonder what would happen in a Khorne versus KO.
They would shoot. They would shoot Khornes.
I feel like the Khorne wouldn't even get to them.
But it now much more feels like at least you're playing the movement game.
Yeah.
Big question though. Drake, you have a friend. Comes to you and says, I want to play Warhammer. And so you say, awesome, yes, get Warhammer. And he says, so the army I'm thinking about starting is Kharadron Overlords. What do you tell him? Is it a good first army?
I might have to say yes, but something with daughters.
That is exactly. I'm better. I like these guys better than daughters for a new player, but I exactly say the same thing. Yes, but so first of all, if you like that if you like the looks of it, if
steampunk
dwarves and sky ships, if that really gets you going and that's what you want to play,
if that floats your ether gold boat,
then yes,
do it. Get that ether gold
for sure. Now, and I think overall, it's a fine army to play. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no handicaps, and like I said, basically every unit in the War Skulls are good.
War Skulls
are good. It's not like you're going to pick something up and people say, "Oh, you picked Indran Riggers, bad choice. They're bad." No, there aren't any bad ones. There are some that could be better. Like, I really feel like they missed an opportunity to make Sky Wardens heavier melee hitters. That should be the one heavy melee fighter is Sky Wardens, but they didn't do it. So yeah, so I think there's not a lot of pitfalls. I think they play really fun. But what are your buts?
You have to choose 10 bazillion thingamajigs.
List building can be a little bit more in depth between amendment, article, footnote, subfaction, and all your enhancements. And some of the enhancements, interestingly enough, like the command traits you can give you other things. So like there's a command trait that gives you another...
There's one that gives you another footnote, and there's one that gives you another engine work.
There's one that gives you another engine work. And then, yeah, there's the one that can do your footnote.
There's one
there's a hero that can change your footnote and maybe your amendment. There's lots.
There's one that is that says Thunderers are battle line.
Sure. But lots of books have that. But lots of the stuff that you do to list build let you pick more things for list building. Right? So list building is a little bit more involved. I don't think it's terrible, but it is more straightforward than, say, Stormcast.
Yeah.
Right? Where you pick one of everything and then you're good to go.
Yep.
What else?
You're gonna have to buy a lot of copies of models for some things. Because we had to buy a secondary boat.
That's true.
A bazillion Arco company. Speaking of Arco company, you're gonna have stupid little dwarfs that are like this big, have a bunch of details, so you have to use a very small brush.
I don't think painting them was all that bad, because once you have that many of them, you just sort of go quick. But it is true that there aren't that many different units in the Kharadron roster.
10 or 11.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many it is, but it's not that many.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to have duplicates. You're going to have 2 or 3 gun haulers. You're going to have multiple Arcanaut company. You might have multiple heroes. Or if you go Balloon Boys, your Sky Wardens and your Engine Riggers are going to look pretty similar. So that's true. If you want the spectacle of lots of different things on the army, yeah, this is a tighter roster. Yeah. It's not bad. Yeah. I mean, I certainly enjoy playing Kharadron, and we have 2 gun haulers. We have 30 Arco. But
I somehow fielded 2 frigates.
You can do 2 frigates. You just wouldn't have an ironclad, right?
Yeah.
So
and a gun hauler.
Yeah. So if you're looking for variety, this doesn't have the best variety. It's not terrible, but it doesn't have the best variety in Warhammer. Anything else?
I don't think there's any other.
So the one caveat I would give to somebody is these guys play heavily in the shooting phase, but they don't do any spells, right? Except for maybe a spell in a bottle. Yeah. They don't, their movement phase is much better now, but they don't tend to want to charge. They don't tend to want to combat.
Yep.
So you're really only playing in a couple of phases, mostly move and shoot. And so if that's your first army, it might be hard to sort of get into Warhammer because you're going to be like seeing Tzeentch do 100,000 things in the hero phase, or Daughters of Cain do 1,000,000 things in the hero phase, and you get to do one thing maybe, right? And then movement's okay, and shooting, you're going to feel like you're the man. Nobody shoots more than Kharadron. You are the man at shooting. But then when it comes to charges, those ogres are going to be charging every which way, and you're going to just do not even want to charge most of the time. Combat, you're going to actually actively want to get out of combat most of the time.
You have a command ability for that specific purpose.
So, and then the Battle Shock nobody likes. So you're not really getting a full Warhammer experience if you play the Kharadron. Yeah. Now, that's not bad, right? If you know that going in, if you understand that caveat, and you say, you know what, that's cool. I want to play guys that are shooters and don't want to be in combat. I want to play the game where we're getting away. I want to play the game where I can fly high or disengage. Cool, right? Yeah. We like it. And so with that sort of caveat, that little warning, I think it's a great book for a new player. Mm. But I do think a new player should be aware of those few caveats. Mm-hmm. But, some books have units that are just terrible.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Stormcast.
well, Stormcast for sure, but even like Night Hunt, right? If you get the crossbows, generally they're not that good. They're just not that good. Or the Blade Wraiths. They're not that good.
Sad. They're just sad.
So if you get them because they're cool looking, you might be surprised when you go to put them on the table and they all get eaten, right? They all just get smashed. You're not going to have that problem so much with Kharadron.
Yeah.
Everything in the book is pretty worthwhile. And then once you get past the list building, they're going to be great on the table. So if you're interested in Kharadron, if you are a returning player, super good stuff here. Really, really. Probably, I think of the tomes, at least of the tomes that we have, I would give most improved. Maybe Night Hunt is most improved.
Gloomspite, most improved.
Oh, Gloomspite.
Gloomspite, most improved.
It is among the most improved. Yeah, I don't know if Night Hunt and Gloomspite might have it beat, but it is among the most improved. It really is a step up, and I really enjoy this tome.
Gloomspite wins almost all of the awards.
And then,
this one wins the shooting award.
If you're new, as long as you see what you're getting into, I think it's perfectly fine for a new player.
Yeah.
If you like Steampunk Wars on boats,
good job,
on airboats, there's nothing that should stop you from playing.
That floats or ethermatic boat.
That's right. Any final thoughts?
Bark Thring's power is super bad.
Which one's that one?
The one where you have to take a priest from another thing.
Oh yeah, one of the sub factions says if you ally in a priest, that priest gets a prayer. But the prayer is pretty cool. But you then have to ally in a priest, and we don't generally use allies. We like to, I think, see. All right, we're done with. We like to think, I think, just see the army as a whole. Like, what do the Maggotkin do? What do the Stormcast do? We don't do a whole lot of allying in. Not to say that allying in is bad. It's very powerful. It's good. But yeah, sometimes.
When my Gloomspite wasn't completely done, I shoved in some Cruel Boys.
Final thoughts?
I think we've covered everything.
All right. Well, hopefully this has been helpful. If you are at all interested in the Kharadron Overlords, if you have any questions or thoughts, or if your thoughts on Kharadron, either from playing them or playing against them, drop it in the comments below, and we'll take a look at them and respond to everything. But yeah, I really think that Kharadron Overlords is a solid army. Very, very fun on the table. All right, this has been another episode of Battle Ready.
Ready.
Thanks so much for watching.